How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Mullen, which was down 2.5% on the day. Even though it did have a red day, there are some positives. I'm going to be talking about that further in the video. I won't be wasting any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder, you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is a technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in the bearish case scenario and as well as in the bullish case scenario. And then we're going to be going on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis from Mullen. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $1.14, being down 2.56%. On the low, it tested $1.08, and then on the high, testing $1.25. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 55.64 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 65.71 million shares. So we did have below average volume on the day, and we just saw a slight pullback in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it's at 40.55. And then when we take a look at our moving averages here on the chart, we are below the 200-day, the 100-day, the 50-day, and as well as the 21-day EMA. So one of the things that I want to bring to your attention very quickly, we are still continuing to form higher lows, and we've been doing this for the past 3 trading days. So even though Mullen did have a red day, it is still looking strong. As far as for the high that we saw on the day was at 125. So going into tomorrow, having buying pressure coming back into the play, you want to get some price action at least above the 21-day EMA, which is at 132. And if it can get to 132 and hold support in that particular area, then you want to look for that push to go to the 160s. This would be very key because if we can get to 160, that's where you want to keep an eye on that 50-day moving average, which is right around $1.89. If we continue to have some selling pressure in the play, like I said, we tested a low of $1.08. So if we pull back, I'd want to see $1 continue to hold. You'd want to see buyers stepping in if Mullen goes to $1. If we don't get that, that's of course we can get that pullback and we'll start testing in the 90-cent range, and then I'll have to do another video afterwards to show you where it could potentially go from there. But overall, the chart still looks strong despite the fact that we had a red day. So let's see if Mullen can continue to make those higher lows and maybe look forward to seeing a higher high for the next trading day, which would be Wednesday. Now let's move on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information from Mullen. As we scroll down on the page, green rows indicate new positions, while red rows indicate closed positions. When we take a look at the recent filings for the 17th, we have Jane Street Group LLC that went in with puts of a value of 526,100 shares. We also see them again with a value of 297,899 shares. And we also see for calls, which is just over 1.9 million shares. And we have Antum Investors LP. Oh, that's actually for the 16th, which we covered yesterday. Now, let's take a look at the short interest. The off-exchange short volume ratio is at 27.36%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 11.46 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 6.1 million, updated 21 minutes ago, and then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 3.48%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 13th, it was at 27.49, and then for the close of the 16th, being at 27.36, and then taking a look at the short interest percentage of the float being at 16.78%, Mullen does continue to have short squeeze potential. Now let's move on to the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution from Mullen. So we see on the inflows at 14.23 million, and then on the outflows at 13.45 million. Taking a look at the breakdown further, on the large it was 3.59 million, on the medium it was 8.46 million, and then on the small it was 2.18 million. Taking a look at the outflow inflow side, you can see on the large it was 4.31 million, on the medium it was 6.92 million, and then on the small it was 2.22 million. But like I said, it was overall inflow day. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you can see for today, May the 17th, we had that outflow of just over 720,000. Analyzing the numbers even further for the small scale orders that tend to represent the retail side, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at the large, which represents whales, institutions, and funds, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it was at 19.64%. No surprises there. We know that Mullen is a volatile stock. And we also do know that there's been a lot of volatility in the markets as well. But we did see some strength, and I will be talking about that further in the final thoughts, so let's get into it right now. So for my final thoughts for Mullen, when it comes to the price action, like I said previously, we still had a strong day. But I know what you're saying, Dre, we had a red day. What are you talking about? So as far as the technicals are concerned, we have consistently for the past 3 trading days made higher lows and as well as higher highs. So this shows us that the stock is in an uptrend. So what we want to see is a continuation of that going into tomorrow, and especially when we close by the end of the week. And what does that look like? Of course, we want to see Mullen being comfortable around $1.35. This is an area where you want to see it close at by the end of Friday. And if that doesn't happen, of course, we're going to continue to have volatility, and it's going to continue to trade in a tight range. So this makes me want to talk about for the downside. So we ended up seeing a low of around $1.08. So if we end up breaking through that level, we want $1 to hold up. If $1 does not hold up, of course, we'll pull back into the 90-cent range, and then we could potentially pull back going into the mid 70-cent range. Remember, we tested around 75, and I was looking for support right around 73 cents. So this is why we want to pay attention of these key levels. But as far as for the move to the upside, that's really what you want to look out for, because if it can actually break through that 130 range, that's where we want to see if it can make that move to the 50-day moving average, which is right around $1.89. This is a very big move. I'm actually not expecting it for this week unless we get some sort of a catalyst, but at least you know what it looks like as far as if we see strength in the stock to the upside, and as well as what it can look like for the downside. You know I got you guys covered. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership, we can see that institutions were loading up on shares. Plus, on top of that, Mullen does continue to have short squeeze potential. So that's part of the reasons why you want to keep a very close eye on this play. But it does thrive on above average volume. If we don't get that coming into the play, of course, it's going to be dealing with a good amount of selling pressure. And we've been noticing this from the order flow. Not surprised that we have some selling and we also have some profit taking. Like I said, when Mullen is above $1, there's many people that are going to be looking to be closing out positions. But we also do have a good amount of people who have been buying in. And as long as these catalysts continue, then I can see Mullen being able to actually have some upside of where it's currently at. And that's why you need to figure out what your intentions are before you go into this play. Do you want to be a trader or do you want to be an investor? If you are an investor, and let's say if the stock decides to pull back to 50 cents or 70 cents, then you should not mind loading up on the dip whatsoever, because you believe in the long-term prospects. And the more money that you put into the play while it's down, when it makes that jump or when it has that spike, you'll be able to see a good amount of green in your portfolio because you've been dollar cost averaging. But if you are a trader, and what that means, if you said, well, you know what, I'm going to be buying Mullen at $1 or $1.05, and if it pulls back to 70 cents and you're still holding it, you are a bag holder. Instead, what you need to do is have risk management. Have a stop loss. If you decide to buy it at, say, $1.05, then you might want to put your stop loss around 95 cents. Again, it's going to differ for each and every individual, but this gives you an idea of what your strategy should be. Because if it does pull back further than what you were expecting, you're just going to complain, you're going to be frustrated, and that's not the type of habit that you should have, especially if you want to see success in these markets. So let's see how Mullen performs going into tomorrow, and of course, I will continue to keep you guys updated. We'll talk soon.